tradition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. And love and tradition of the grand design, some people say is even harder to find.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode, All Things Real Estate. Mark, Ben, myself, and today we're joined by David Lawver, longtime friend, lending partner. Yep. David, how long have you been in the industry?
Since 2005.
Wow, okay, so going on 18 years, so definitely some experience there, and we look forward to jumping into discussion on rates and things like that.
Yeah, it's definitely been a roller coaster ride since 2005 too.
Yeah, seeing the ups, downs again.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Absolutely.
no, great. All right, well, I'm going to jump into the market minute.
Let's go.
Here we are, middle of June, and we are about at the time where our inventory levels should peak for the year. And so what are our inventory levels looking at?
If this is the peak, I mean, come
it's
on.
going to be,
We were just looking at those stats today, and we're literally half of what our historical lows were before we even came into this year.
Yeah, so in Santa Clara County, as of today, we have a whopping 637 single-family homes for sale. Yeah. That's it.
Is that including coming soon as well?
No, there are 175 coming soon.
Okay.
But 637 single-family homes for sale, 692 pending. So we have less than a month's worth of inventory on the single-family side. Condos, townhomes, we're pretty split. We're 270 on the market, 278 pending.
Yeah.
But yeah, total we've got about 311 coming soon in off-market properties for those people that want to know, what's on the horizon.
So here's the crazy thing with that, and I know David, you're in Austin now, right?
That's right.
I know we talked about it prior to the podcast. We're going to go too deep on Austin, guys.
Okay.
Just But how many active? So we have 637 active listings in this county that has 2 million people. Mm-hmm. How many active listings in Austin right now?
Around 9,000.
9,000
with
the
same population.
Yeah. Right? That's incredible. That's
and,
incredible.
And it's about 2.5 months worth of inventory, so maybe double what it is here, which still is historically really low.
Right. Yeah. And fun fact, how many active mobile homes do we have in the market?
Ben, I'm sure you can answer that question.
Because all kidding aside, for a lot of people, manufactured housing, it's affordable, right? We know you don't get the appreciation, but you get to live in the valley.
And manufactured homes has a whole. They're such the technology and the way they're building those are so much different than how they were before, right? Just a 10 basic box. I mean, they're definitely.
It's a full-on house at this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Modular home. I mean, it's
It's actually super common in Austin. So Texas has these rules where the factories are state approved, and once you get a state approval, you don't have to go through the local planning or jurisdiction. So you literally just walk in with your plan. They make sure it meets the setbacks, and you're dropping a house in 6 weeks.
And the reality is, a lot of those homes from the outside, you can't tell. And tell that they're a modular home, right?
Correct.
And they're also they're steel constructed. You don't have a lot of the brick and mortar and stuff that you'd normally do with other construction stuff. So
is it pretty hard to get accepted through a mobile home park in Austin?
No, these homes are like
on land.
They're building $3.5 million mansions out of the factory. You're talking 5,000 foot Viking finishes, like full blown.
Yeah, we don't quite have those kind of manufactured homes here in the valley. Most of them are relegated to mobile home parks.
Correct.
But we have 80 on the market and 86
the entire county.
In the entire county and 86 pending. So even on the mobile homes, we have less than a month's worth of inventory.
What's say 5 years ago? What would be a standard inventory on mobile homes?
Oh, we'd probably have at least 2.5 times that.
And the crazy thing is, mobile homes in our area, not to keep bringing up Austin, but we will, are the same price as a single family home pretty much anywhere else in Austin. I mean, what are they running now? $400,000 or $500,000?
Yeah, I would say between $300,000 and $500,000 depending on the site.
And it depends on space rent, right? So the lower the space rent, the higher typically the value is on the.
So I found out too with space rent, it only increases when you sell it. It's not like an HOA where it increases every year. Depending on how many times a mobile home gets sold, the increase
they use that
space
opportunity
rent
to increase the space.
So another option for affordable housing, though, right?
Which makes it, I mean, again, why I asked if it was hard to get accepted through it in a mobile home park. But here, in most mobile home parks, you need to be making at least 3 times the space rent. And if you get a property that's sold 5 times over in a community, space rent can be $2,700. That means the family coming in has got to make 3 times $2,700 to get accepted by the community.
Which is challenging for that makeup of the buyer because the demographics of those buyers are generally retired on fixed incomes. Where they have the assets.
Using Social Security
and they won't even allow you to like prepay a year in advance or anything?
Can't prepay anything. It is as similar, if not the exact same as a property manager.
Very interesting.
All right. Well, that's all I had. 80,
it.
80 on the market and 86 pending. So even on the manufactured homes, I
Right.
mean, we just no inventory. And I mean, like I said, this is the time of year between now and mid-July is when we hit our peak.
You know, it's interesting when you mentioned this time of year, and I think we've talked about this before. Normally, we look at this June gloom type of activity in the real estate market.
Yeah.
Right? Activity slows down. Everybody goes on vacation and stuff. And we were a little concerned about that. Normally, we don't list homes this time of year. We'll either try to push our clients before or right after, like August when it starts picking up.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I think we have, I don't know, close to 10 listings we got coming on in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
And yet the activity due to the low inventory is still active as ever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going crazy.
I definitely think demand drives that price.
100%. Yeah.
Obviously, low inventory, you get a neighborhood. I keep bringing it up. 95124 Cambrian, very friendly for first-time home buyers, young adults, young professionals. Everyone still wants to be in there.
Yeah.
One property pops up, you go to the open house on Saturday, you see all 20 of the same people who came from the previous Saturday, the previous house down the street.
Well, and what's crazy to me is we're seeing this demand home selling quickly, multiple offers at 7% interest rates.
yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, right? I mean, we've almost bounced back to our peak of last year, right? Or maybe 5% off. But I mean, people have adjusted, and now they're paying 7%
Yeah,
interest rates
yeah.
on that $2-3 million home.
Which is a great segue into our guest.
yeah.
Right?
So David, interest rates right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're sitting around 7%, right, for a 30-year fix.
Yeah, like national average would be high sixes, 6.8,
Okay.
6.9, something like that.
Gotcha. And you know, looking at your crystal ball, where do you see interest rates going between now and the end of the year, and then next year, which is an election year?
And of course, we're recording on a CPI print, which is the national inflation came in at 4%, a little bit below expectations. And I think just industry-wide, it's kind of acknowledged that the Fed seems to be a little bit slow with how they react.
Right.
Like early 2021, you could see gas prices. You could see you couldn't get any contractors. Construction prices were going through the roof. And it was like, inflation's happening. And the Fed's like, no, it's transitory. And you're just like, this doesn't feel right. And then all of a sudden you get a 9% print, and now they're backlashing the other way. It seems like the other side of that coin's happening. You see cost of lumber down 70% off the peak, steel down over 50%. All the things that even gas prices down a little bit, although that's a lot from them releasing the strategic reserve. But it feels like inflation's cooling off, and as that cools off, rates should go down.
So rates should go down even if the Fed doesn't, so if Fed hits pause on raising rates, and we know that there's not a direct correlation to, the Fed funds rate and in mortgage interest rates, but you're saying you think mortgage interest rates will start to come down as long as the Fed just kind of stays neutral, or do you think the Fed will need to lower rates before we see things kind of follow?
Well, the Fed's tied by inflation. So if inflation continues to go down, and it does seem like we haven't felt the effects of the original cuts, it takes about a year for the economy to really show what they've done. And they just stopped cutting, a month ago?
Yeah.
So we won't really know till this time next year the damage of all that, the layoffs, the any defaults that come, credit card defaults. There's a lot of things on the horizon that are yet to come. And so I think as some of that bad economic data comes out, recession is announced, and if inflation is cooling, most predictions are that there'll be some pullback of interest rates, maybe settle into something like mid-5s, something like that.
I mean, I'm curious. I've had a couple clients ask me, when we look at this, what are we at, a $31 trillion deficit, right? How is the government going to make that up? Obviously, increased taxes, right? Is it another portion of that increased interest rates? I mean, is that tied together at all with increasing the income the government's going to offset a deficit with?
No, we're just going to increase the debt ceiling and just borrow more money.
Is it just
right?
keep hitting that
Keep
button?
printing.
Yeah.
Keep printing the money, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's one of three things. You can either pick from higher interest rates, you can pick from higher tax rates, you can pick from cutting away from Social Security.
Right.
And none of those are popular politically. Like if somebody took someone's Social Security off in retirement, are they going to get votes?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's no way around just continuing to expend and spend and spend. And just hope that AI and technology outpaces the spending that they're doing.
Right. That's crazy. That's so crazy.
Well, speaking of, you talked a little bit about, what's on tap economically for next year, right? We know that, credit card debt is at a high that it hasn't been in a number of years. The average auto loan payment is extremely high. Auto loan defaults are up. And I had a client reach out to me recently because on Good Morning America, they had a whole segment on foreclosures are up, right? So right away they're calling, well, how do I buy one of these foreclosures?
Right.
And it's funny, do topics like that to sell, viewers and ads and all that stuff. But the reality is, especially in our market, foreclosures, yes, they are up a little bit. Part of that is because they ended the moratorium last year, and then now it takes time, right, for the notice of default, notice of sale. But the reality is the majority of those homeowners have equity. Yeah. So even though they are in foreclosure, most of them are just waiting till the last minute. They're going to put their home on the market and then sell, cash out, make the bank whole, and then move on. Now the commercial side's different, and we can have a whole conversation on that. But
yeah, I mean the office space right now, especially if you're in San Francisco, you have retail and everything there. I mean the metro areas are getting slammed.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how that evolves over the next few months.
Well, yeah, I think I heard 1.5 trillion in commercial debt is going to adjust or recast between now and 2025.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of money and not a lot of people leasing office space.
And on
right
triple
now.
net leases, you're not going to pass on that expense to your tenant. The ownership's going to eat it, and that's why you see a lot of these larger corporations right now walking away. Mm-hmm. Most of those larger loans, like we were talking today about the Hilton and Park Q, the hotel up in San Francisco, most of those are non-recourse loans.
I saw that.
Right, so where they can literally just walk away, and the bank takes the hit.
Yep.
And then the bank has to find a management company or something else. But when you have those many large investment groups walking away in areas, I mean, what was it? Westfield just walked away from their Union Square shopping mall, the whole thing.
$500 billion debt.
I mean,
yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, and it's when I read that it's a non-recourse.
Yeah, isn't
loan.
that crazy?
How can you borrow $700 million and it be non-recourse or not corporate guarantee?
Is that crazy? I mean, try to take a $1 million loan out on your house that's a non-recourse loan. Good luck, right?
Credit card. I mean, they're coming after you, right? So yeah, that was really interesting to me because I mean, think of all of those non-recourse loans out there that people are just gonna walk from.
Yeah. But your middle America commercial investor don't have those non-recourse loans. Those individuals. Right. It's gonna be a very interesting shift, and thus why we're seeing the cap rates increasing to where they have to make it more attractive for somebody to come in. But when those rates go up, again, their income is not going to go up in relation to that variance. So it'll be interesting to see again what that evolves to over the next few months, next year or so.
This does all kind of tie back to the inventory.
Right.
Like if you stop and think about it, in 2008, 56% of all loans were adjustable. And say someone had $1 million loan, they had this interest-only payment that was $3K, that when it adjusted went to $8K, and market rent was $5K. So people are like, okay, bank, here you go. And that led to the last crash. This time around, everyone's got a 3% rate. So their $1 million note's $4K and rent's $5K.
Right.
So people aren't going to give that house up. They're going to let their car go, their credit card go. People aren't listing that to go trade a 3% rate for a 7% rate. So it makes total sense that inventory's where it is and nothing's moving.
Well, yeah, and something you said earlier that maybe rates will settle down like in the low fives. I mean, I'm wondering, is that even enough to get to free up the log jam of inventory that's built up in our area, right? We have a lot of people that have lived here forever. So you have the cap gains issue, and then you have the low interest rates. And so how do you get those people out of those homes other than waiting until they pass away or get divorced or relocate?
That's the reason why our inventory levels are where they're at, right? Yep. I do know, and I don't have it on the top of my head, but there's a bill being proposed that will increase capital, the exclusion.
Yeah,
primary
doubles
residence,
it, right?
It'll double it. It'll go from 250 to 500 and 500 to $1 million for couples. But I mean, that's just on the table right now. It is bipartisan right now, so it's got a lot of support from both parties. We'll see. I mean, that might, shake it up a little bit. But to David's point, I mean, everyone's sitting on these low interest rate loans. Why would you make that transition now into a higher interest rate loan? Unless if there's some life event or something that's driving that decision.
So there's like 1 million new purchases a year, right? Like transactions.
Okay.
And there's something like 40 million loans in the threes or less. So if you think about just normal life events and cycling through all that money that was printed at these 3% rates, the loans will pay off before they're all cycled through. I mean, so like I think this inventory is gone forever. And I think we have to just accept this like reduced residential inventory. Residential is a very protected asset class because all the inventory is gone and all the new buildings stop because there's so much red tape. They're way underbuilt on new houses versus formations.
Especially in California.
Especially in California.
Yeah, Bay Area, yeah.
So you're saying you think inventory is just going to be like this forever?
Yeah, you'll still have peaks and valleys. And like where like you notice this will be the peak and then it'll go down again in December. You'll still have 8 or 10% seasonal price variation, which is pretty normal. Like last year rates went to 7 and then prices maybe went down 10% in Santa Clara County ish, 8, 9, 10. But now it's back up another 3, 4, 5, 6%. That's more seasonality than anything. I mean, I think it's really the 7% just stopped the crazy up 20% a year. All it's done is pushed everything sideways.
Yeah.
No, I agree, and that's probably why, you know, because and I think you hit on a really good point, which is I think low inventory is here to stay for the foreseeable future. And National Association of Realtors, NAR, which we're 3 of us are all members of, so far year to date, 60,000 real estate agents have gotten out of our industry nationwide.
Yeah, and that's going to continue.
Yeah.
What is that percentage-wise?
It's still small. I think NAR is NAR up to $1.5 million.
Yeah, we're at, I think we're about 1.2 million, right around that number, right?
Yeah, so maybe 4%, 3-4%.
Last time we had a 20% reduction, so that will thin out, which we welcome, obviously.
Absolutely.
I mean, with that low bar to get into our industry, it's like, hey, see ya.
Yeah,
Let that door hit you.
I wish the 60,000 was all in the Bay Area.
100%.
But yeah, and we are seeing that. You know, we're seeing, you know, it's just numbers. We have less inventory, less transactions, and eventually less agents.
Which it'll be interesting. I mean, I tend to follow that thought process just because it is the new builds are slowing down and everything, and just the demand is so high. We know, and we've talked about this many times on the podcast, that, you know, to get back to whatever a normal market is, we haven't seen a quote unquote. I mean, this is normal.
Yeah, it's
now,
the new
right?
normal. Yeah.
But I mean, you almost have to have 3,500 to 4,000 units in our inventory to make it where it's more of that balanced market, I guess you can say. I don't see how in the hell we're going to hit those numbers. I know Aaron, who's not here today, we made a bet to see where our inventory would be in June, and I think he threw out 1,600.
Yeah, which is why he's
obviously
not here
he lost
today.
the bet.
Historically, it's a good bet.
Yeah, I'm sure historically. But
Yeah, he's just wasn't counting on that 3% debt killing all the inventory.
Exactly. Oh, it's very interesting times.
Yeah, I speak to Aaron about this often. I know he sent the text message earlier yesterday about just a previous client coming back up from the past looking for homes again. I know with the stock market and tech kind of rising and stuff, I feel like some of the older generational who have more money in that are now back in the market. Do you see, from your perspective, a certain demographic coming to you more over less, or is it more of a first-time home buyer that you're working with, or do you see a lot of the second-time home buyers, or just people taking stock money out and using it?
Yeah. Lending-wise, I'm with you. I was expecting the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, obviously stock prices got smacked. In lending in Silicon Valley, our peak was $1 billion in a year. I mean, every single buyer is like two tech employees, have RSUs. They're trading out of an old house or trading out of an old house and selling some RSUs to make a house work. I mean, that's the transaction.
What's an
here.
RSU?
Oh, a restricted stock unit. So that's their stock in Apple, Google, Facebook, whatever. And when the stock prices were dropping, everyone was kind of freaking out. Like, I don't want to sell my stocks because the price is so low.
Right.
But by probably maybe last fall, they had kind of settled. And if you look, their stock prices are basically equal to pre-COVID. So there was money printing. Stocks ran up crazy. Yep. They've now corrected. It's 2019 levels at all the major tech companies, not really that big of a deal. And people are back to trading their stocks again to make deals work.
I think you mentioned that at the height, you guys did $1 billion worth of loans.
Yeah.
Where do you see that at now? I mean, and it's not a reduction of you haven't caused that reduction. It's the industry, right? So from $1 billion, what did you do in 2022, or what are you trending for 2023?
Yeah. Industry wide, it's down about 70%.
70%.
Because no refinance business either. Right?
Yeah, refinance is gone, and then purchase is down. You guys know what transaction volume down 20, 30%?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much 40%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very interesting when you look at all of the top producers in our area. Everybody in the industry, transactional counts, right? It's down 40%.
That's right.
And it's reflective when you look at the top producing agents, when you look at our industry, just everything. It's just,
Yeah, so lending, same. So purchase is down 30%, and then refinance is down 80%. So you can do the math on that, and there you go.
Wow, what a great time to start a mortgage company, huh?
Yeah. Actually, it's perfect, because if you could do it now.
Exactly. You survive on that.
It's like getting your license back in 07, 08, right?
Absolutely. And on that subject, I know we just, our in-house lender company, RE Mortgage Advisors, just got approved, and you guys are on that platform as well. So we look forward to a continued long-term relationship with you guys.
Go ahead.
So speaking of lending products, right? I mean, I think everybody's familiar with traditional 30-year fix. There's FHA out there. There's adjustable rate mortgages. What other loan programs either do you offer, David, or you've seen other lenders offer that are maybe non-traditional? And can you talk a little bit about how those are structured? So where if I've got a client who's not a W-2 employee, what options are available for them?
Yeah, so, and for better or worse, this market resembles early 2000s a lot. We had a giant tech price correction, and but mortgage rates and mortgage loans have not been defaulting. I mean, it's the lowest default rate since 2008. It's been continued success. Everyone documented their income, 3% rates. No one's defaulting on this stuff. Even the headline of defaults up 7%. It's like from 0.2 to 0.3. You know, it's still historically like insanely low, right? So lenders are now starting to open the bag a little bit. You know, it's like, hey,
we got to generate.
Nothing's defaulting. Can we do no income?
Yeah.
Can we do 10% down instead of 20? How does interest only sound? You know, so but I'd say a lot of the most common stuff that we're seeing a lot of FHA for like, you know, buyers up to $1,080,000 loan amount. So kind of the first time 3.5% down home buyer in Santa Clara County. They've got a 4% 5-year ARM. That takes a 3-point buy down from the seller. So we're seeing a lot of offers that are asking for a 3% seller credit, and they're getting 4% on a 5-year ARM. So that's a very interesting product. We're seeing a lot of our self-employed people. We're seeing these sort of bank statement or stated income type of products, and we're seeing a lot of jumbo 10% down. For a while, the bridge loans were popular, and then we didn't really need them, and now it's actually starting to get busy again, where we're having to use bridge products so somebody can buy their next house first and then come back later and sell their previous one.
What's the rate on those?
Or how are those structured? So, you know, tell our audience kind of what a bridge loan is and how it functions.
Sure. So if someone wants to buy their new house without being contingent and close, and then later get their other house ready and sell it, the loan allows you to buy the new house first. And bridge it until you sell the old one. Generally, the rates are 8-9%, so a little more expensive than market, although not that much more compared to, say, a 7% interest rate. Yeah. And usually the problem with the bridge loans is there's cost. So the lender's giving you this bridge loan that they know, you know, lenders normally make interest month to month. They're like, hey, like, we know we're not going to make any interest. Like, you're going to pay a couple of percent. And usually the buyer's weighing out like, hey, if I actually properly market and get my previous house ready, am I going to get more than 2% more for that? And usually the answer is yes. And so it's worth that cost.
Yeah, and we've used it as a parachute, right? Many times where we get our client approved for it. And then if the market's cooperating, we'll generally get their house sold within that time period and not have to use the bridge loan. But it's always great to have it as a parachute.
Yeah, so on the bridge loan, David, so are they making payments on both properties? Is there like a time period before it kicks in? How does all that work?
There's multiple different investors that do it, and some allow you to wrap in the interest so you don't have to make payments. Some make you make the payments. It depends a lot on a person's qualifications and the certain circumstances.
But, you know, there are options out there for non-traditional, you know, W-2 employees.
I'm assuming the majority of your loans aren't 30-year fixed type products, right? I mean, aren't you doing more ARMs or?
Well, yeah, that FHA 5-year ARM is very popular, but we are doing a lot of 30-year fix. I mean, a lot of people are just like, we're just saying, hey, listen, qualify with the 30-year fix.
Sure.
And if you can make that work, make it work. You know, the one thing, I know there's this whole like, what is it? Buy the house, date the rate.
Yeah.
There's this like catchphrase, which if I'm frank, I don't love.
Give him the phrase, Dave.
You marry the mortgage, right?
Yeah, marry the house, date the rate. Yeah. This thing. Well, but that's also assuming like when rates drop, prices haven't dropped. And if values have dropped, then you can't refi. So if somebody's getting into this thing and overextending themselves and can't really afford the payments, hoping that rates drop and they can refi, like, I don't love that as a strategy. I think somebody should be able to afford what it is today.
I agree with that.
And I'd say the other piece is FHA has a no appraisal refinance function. So for the new home buyers, we're seeing a lot of new home buyers coming in, by the way. That's like people who just don't know 3% rates. They're just like, hey, I want to own a home. And, oh, what's my payment? Cool. And this is what it is today.
Yep.
Right.
That product, if rates go down, even if the values go down, you don't have to reappraise and you can just drop the rate. So FHA, for that reason, also is an interesting first-time product.
How can a buyer or real estate agent help their buyer make that offer or that FHA loan more attractive to a seller? Because we know if we're dealing with multiple offers, you got somebody coming in 20% down, pre-approved on a conventional type loan. The seller is going to look at an FHA, or the agent's going to look at the FHA and kind of, you know, side by side. So is there a way to strengthen that FHA as far as with fully pre-approved?
Say like have DU approval or something like that.
Yeah, we can show all those approvals, and the same risks apply if value comes in short because things are getting bid up a little bit. Like that low money down is a problem. There's always the classic, you know, write the emotional letter and package the offer well. But the reality is the risk of FHA is does appraisal come in short. But truly, it's as reliable as a conventional product. And actually, us, and as far as I know, most lenders right now, we're not busy. So like, if we need to whip a loan through in 16 days, like, let's go, let's get competitive.
So how long
you know?
is it taking to close an FHA loan?
Oh, 16 days is like
16
wow.
You can close an FHA loan in 16 days.
we just did one in 11.
Wow.
That's fast.
But
Wow.
again, we're
busy.
We're hanging out.
That's actually great to know, though, right? And I
Yeah.
think there's an education that has to be done to agents, and I mean, because
Well, that alone is a
Right.
great advantage. If everybody else is writing 25 to 30 day closes and I come in FHA, but I'm 15, 16 days.
Absolutely.
Seller gets their money that much faster.
Right,
I mean, you know,
right.
there's a huge advantage right there.
Sure.
Now, you mentioned appraisals not matching purchase price. Are you seeing much of that right now?
We have not been, but as things are heating up with the inventory down, we're starting to see more and more like multiple offers. It's going over asking a little bit, like not a huge amount. I mean, what was it at this time last year? 110% over ask.
Oh, yeah.
was, like, average. And
that was the standard. Yeah.
And now we're about
100.
102, 103.
Yeah. That's like appraisers
No.
aren't gonna like. Appraisers generally, I think, want to appraise it at the purchase price, but when it just gets so crazy, like 10% difference,
Yeah.
like.
Well, and the other challenges I am seeing appraisers having is just limited comps because of limited number of transactions in the immediate area, right? So it's hard for them to find that kind of apples to apples comparison. But yeah,
That being said, we haven't seen any of on our deals where the appraisals have come in low. They've been pretty much right on.
Yep.
In fact, I think Ben had one that came in higher. Somebody on our team did.
Yeah, I mean, the property that the one in Willow Glen we got for 300 grand under asking, and that definitely came a lot higher.
Yeah, crazy.
all right.
All right.
Well, anything else? We're going to wrap it up?
I think we're good. David, thank you so much for your time, as always. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we got our Summer of Fun that continues, right? We
Yeah,
got our
the
Jazz
Jazz
in the
in the Plaz,
Plaz,
Music in the
August
Park.
23rd. We got the last booth date on that. And then, Music in the Park starts. And
Starts July 23rd.
we just did our Spider-Man movie and
did.
got some other stuff in planning. So stay tuned.
Yep.
Right?
And reach out to us for all things real estate.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks.
Take care.
See ya.